So why don't you start, Nicholas, and tell us about the show that you have and et cetera.
Sure. Well, I started off in traditional media. I started really young, working for PBS as a production assistant. Left PBS, became a production assistant for ESPN, worked my way up to being an associate director for them, doing their shows like SportsCenter and a lot of their soccer shows. Left that and started directing commercials, infomercials, and managed to raise about $500,000 in the last 4 years for independent film productions as well. Since then, I've found the need for social media is essential. There's unfortunately the whole gameplay for how you make movies and the business of movie making and television and entertainment in general has changed. It's morphed incredibly to such an extent that Hollywood is shaking in their boots right now. People all over Hollywood the middlemen are falling out of the game. A lot of agents and managers are dropping out. It's just they're figuring out new ways to monetize and make money on entertainment, and that's sort of exciting for me because I've hated Hollywood for the most part, to be honest. I found it's just not very open to really original and creative ideas. So in the more recent years, I worked on a series called Hell's Kitty. It's a comedy horror about a cat that's possessed and a Hollywood writer who can't have a love life as a result of it. And it's something that we started with Denise and I, based on some true stories. We've gradually grown this brand out just using the internet. We stream it on YouTube. We've managed to partner with nonprofits that help animals. So any money we make on ancillary merchandising goes to our nonprofit partners. And we've gotten guest stars like Lee Merriweather, one of the original Catwomen, Adrienne Barbeau, who was in The Fog and Creepshow, Michael Berryman in The Hills Have Eyes, Ashley C. Williams, the star of the Human Centipedes in our series. And the list goes on. We're actually talking to Danny Trejo about our next guest star role. So we spoof a lot of horror, but at the same time we're creating a series. We have 11 episodes up right now, I believe. We'll have 20 altogether, and our plan is to create the George Lucas of new media. So we're gonna take 20 episodes, piece it together, redistribute it as a feature film, especially hit the Asian markets because they love their cats and their campy horror. And we already got a book on Amazon that was entirely created from digital video images taken from the web series. So we didn't have to pay $30,000 to a graphic artist to create a comic book. We made a comic book out of our digital video images. It is the first one ever done. You can search on Amazon.com and see this. We spoke at a panel about this and how artists can do this, and I think we're just scratching the surface. And now as a result, we have a pretty major game company looking to make a mobile game where you can play a possessed cat going through the 9 circles of hell. And we're gonna try to tap into Petco and other kind of pet products where people can win coupons as they get through levels. And this, what I'm telling you right now, actually awes people at bigger festivals and also at like Comic-Con, because we're really on the cusp of some new stuff that's happening right now, and I think we find it exciting. So.
Okay, and can you tell them how to get to it, how to get to Hell's Kitty to watch it?
Fortunately, you can just Google search it now, and it's pretty much everywhere. But if you go to hellskitty.com, that's HELLSKITTY.com, you can go to that and check out our main page. All our social media links are there. If you're on Facebook and search for Hell's Kitty, it should come up. But you can also get to it from our main website. We have a Twitter account. I believe we couldn't get Hell's Kitty, unfortunately, so we got My Pets Possessed, which also kind of puts us out into another world, which is also not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes you want to diversify your brand. So people looking for pets or pet-related things now will find their way to Hell's Kitty.
So let me ask you about that. So when that happened, I mean, did everybody cry that they couldn't get Hell's Kitty? Or did you just think, okay, well, we're just going to have to do this in a different way? I mean,
this is kind of a funny story. I'm going to let Denise talk. You mentioned the original title.
Well, we didn't start as Hell's Kitty, first of all. We started as My Pussy's Possessed. The first 3 episodes are as My Pussy's Possessed. But as we talked to people, and women especially, they felt that was a little offensive. Even though it's funny. So we made the decision to, I think, be a better brand as Hell's Kitty, and I think a lot of people like that better. So we couldn't get My Pussy's Possessed on Twitter. So we got the next best thing, My Pets, and we did cry at first.
But you picked yourself up.
Right, but you just have to figure it out. And so My Pets Possessed is just as good.
So you mentioned the way that you're working with animal rights groups and that. Well, I'd like to ask Carrie to speak now because she's done a lot with nonprofits and your work in Haiti. So why don't you tell us about how you're using social media for those things and who you've been working with?
Sure. First, I just want to say one of the reasons why I think larger groups are really impressed with you guys working with brands is because brands are coming to you because their consumers are going to look for content that they are already engaged with, and they're excited about it, and I think that's really super cool. So, recently, before I started working for a private consulting firm, I was working for Sean Penn's Haitian Relief Organization in Haiti, JPHRO. And I think one of the things that, we did there was we just worked really hard to tell a story that wasn't being told through traditional media about development work that was happening there. And I think that social media allows you the space to tell the story and to frame the content in the way that's right for your organization as opposed to just depending on traditional media.
Yeah, and I thought that earlier we talked about how using social media could actually save lives in this type of situation. So,
Absolutely, it's a wonderful fundraising tool for nonprofit organizations and people in the international development space. It's a wonderful fundraising tool for anyone who's trying to promote a social cause. I think that telling the real story is something that we struggle with when we watch traditional media, and this just is a much more democratic system for disseminating information.
And we also discussed yesterday about if there was an emergency situation or whatever, that if you're using Twitter versus a traditional phone call, with one phone call you have one lifeline, one person, and with Twitter it's exponential.
Yeah, I think that Twitter has become a wonderful tool that people, turn to receive information and news that they're interested in receiving. I was telling Kathleen about a situation in Haiti. We were in Port-au-Prince, and the major news stations were reporting that Hurricane Isaac was coming in 2012, and that all of the people who are still in internally displaced persons camps weren't receiving the information and they weren't being properly sensitized. But the reality of the situation was every single person on the ground was working incredibly hard to get the information to the public and to prevent a huge tragedy. And we were able to communicate that through Twitter as opposed to just letting the traditional media report whatever they wanted. And it forced them to contact us and to report the real story. And I think that then that affects fundraising dollars, that affects people's faith in your organization, and and it also tells the real story of what's going on in a country like Haiti, where we're constantly hearing the bad and never hearing the good. So Twitter has become a wonderful tool for getting information out.
So how many people in the room are using Twitter? Oh, okay. I use it for news. I love it for news. I think it's the most up-to-date thing I can get, and except that I'm always looking on my phone at it, which I don't like, but I think that it's pretty effective. Now, how do you use it?
I use Twitter for news. I really like Twitter for news. I don't watch traditional news on television. I just feel like I would rather spend my time receiving news that isn't clouded by pundits, and I get to make those choices when I, decide who to follow and when I decide what hashtags to look for. Like, maybe what's going on in the Arizona legislature is probably very important to a lot of you right now, and there are certain hashtags that you can search that will give you news about what's going on, but you won't have to watch, a 12-hour news broadcast in order to extract the few pieces of information that are important to you. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's great. And how about you guys? How do you, personally, how do you use it?
I use it to brand myself, and yeah, I do use it as a news source as well, and I think most people do. Yeah.
Twitter, for the most part, although she handles more of the Twitter stuff, I'll occasionally do it as well. We use it for building out the brand. It's really about building brand equity now. And I mean, when you have a world in which there are no gatekeepers anymore, and you can have distribution and production and exhibition, any one of us, any one of us can have our own channel, so to speak. That's a great thing in a way because we don't have gatekeepers, and it's a horrible thing in a way because we don't have gatekeepers. So how does one stand out? How does one differentiate? And so one of the things I'll do is I'll utilize Twitter to hit, again, with Hell's Kitty, our comedy horror show. We have two pillars of support that are pretty fanatical, and one would be the horror community, and then the other community would be cat lovers, which is a huge community. In fact, there's a marketing joke: just put a cat in it. It's. And so we would specifically use Twitter to kind of hit those groups. And you referenced hashtags before. So for those of you not familiar with hashtags, it's a little symbol that you use to, when you're doing a tweet, and you put it in front of a word. It's like a number symbol, right? And then that word, when someone searches for that word, anything that has that hashtag in it will come up in a stream of recent posts. So if we hashtag devil cat, anyone searching for devil cats or pets, or Lee Merriweather, who was one of our guest stars, anyone searching for Lee Merriweather will see us and, oh, who's this? What's this show? What's this? So the other thing I do to use it for is to kind of engage and find new audience people. So I'll go out there and tweet myself and search and find anything related to devil cats or something or horror or comedy horror or our guest stars. And I'll start hitting and talking to these people and saying, hey, if you like Lee Merriweather, you may want to see this episode, and put a link in there. The other thing I do is I'll hit horror people, and these are people that don't know about us, but I love, and I want them to know about us, and I'll make an interesting because Twitter, you have like a few words you can say, right? So I'll just throw something in there that's engaging that I'd want to know more about. So what would hook me? What would make me actually click and view something? Well, it's been pretty successful. One of the things I do is Angel, which is our cat, the name of the cat in the series. Angel gives Clive Barker 4 paws up. And so then now if Clive Barker sees this thing and he's got all these posts and he's like, what the heck is this? And then he might actually investigate the show and check out and see, oh, it's a show about a possessed pussycat and the name's Angel, and et cetera. So that's one of the things. And also going back to the My Pussy's Possessed, which was our original title, which was kind of a bad nightmare for marketing in some ways. Although we have a lingerie line, actually, that's great. But and that's doing well in a separate world. But as far as like YouTube, whatever your name of your thing is, bear in mind, like in that case, My Pussy's Possessed, we started getting a lot of videos that popped up that were related to more pornographic stuff. And our tweet and Twitters, we got a lot of porn stars wanting to tweet us. And it doesn't help that I have a documentary also that's related to a sexual subject. So we had Nina Hartley as a guest star too, who was a former porn star. So we started getting this kind of association, which we didn't want, especially with going for a different kind of more mainstream audience.
Oh, I was just gonna say that you bring up some really great points about, finding those niche markets that are interested in the content that you're putting out there. That's such a wonderful thing that hashtags allow for you to do when you are promoting a brand. Like I think that there's a very different way to use social media in your personal life than there is to use social media if you're pushing a brand or a product. And you have to have a great understanding of how you personally use social media in order to effectively use it for a brand or a product. Because when you're out there and you're searching for content to watch and engage with, you're doing it because it's fun, it's easy, and it's something that you usually do in your leisure time, or because you're searching for news, as we were talking about. And it's wonderful when you are able to find that way to connect your brand and product with the group of people that are out there searching for the content that you are putting out. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, I also use it on, I just thought of this, as a job seeker. It's great to promote yourself, but also when I look for talent, I look to see how their social media, if they have a lot of followers, that's important to us now. And also job recruiters will look at your Twitter account, your Facebook account, and see your content on there, so you have to be aware of that and brand yourself.
So if you're looking for an actor or an actress, you're actually looking to see how many followers they have.
Yeah, that's very important because then they can help promote us through their followers. And so the more they have, the better it looks for us. And no, Michael Berryman, for example, didn't have any. He maybe had 2.
Well, so I see, you go on people's Twitter accounts and they follow 100 people, and then they have, 35,000 followers. Why is that?
They're just popular, or they know how to connect with their audience. The information that they're putting out, it's reaching people in a way that, those people trust them as an information source for whatever reason.
And so, to monetize this, now that you have, Hell's Kitty, that's now worth some money as far as like a domain name or branding or whatever. I mean, do you look at it that way? That you're actually building a brand, that's, something that is, could be, well, obviously you're spinning it off yourself, but it could be spun off for other reasons, or because maybe you have 100,000 followers.
Yeah, we absolutely. The way I look at it. It's interesting. The way I look at the finance side of things, and I feel like a lot of creatives need to look at it this way too. Is there's 2 ways to kind of create value. One is to actually sell a product or service, so you're making money. There's an exchange of capital. The other way is to build what we call brand equity. It's so obvious if you watch like certain reality TV stars, like Snooki, for example. I remember when I found out that she spoke at a college for $200,000. She never even went to college, I think. And it's like, wow. This is a woman who is a reality star. She was for those that don't know, she was, I can't even remember, what is it? Jersey Shore, thank you. Yeah, I don't really watch much reality television, to be honest, but I did notice this, and I was shocked by it, but there's a power there. I mean, this is a person that was making nominal amount of money. I think they probably started them off like maybe $500 or to $1,000 a week, and then up to $5,000 a week, and then maybe maxed out at $10,000 a week, which is amazing for a reality person, actually. And then can go to and speak at a college and make well over 6 figures. Some people's like 3 years of salary in speaking for 2-3 hours. Now that is brand equity. When you're a celebrity and you can attach your name to a restaurant and not have to ever do anything else, and you're getting a percentage of that restaurant, that's brand equity, and that will translate to value at some point. So if everyone knows your name, in some way you can probably capitalize on that. So that's one of the ways in which we're building the brand Hell's Kitty,
Yeah, and adding to that, also, you can monetize it by, if you have a lot of followers, let's say you have 100,000 followers, or even more plus. What brands will do, like Coca-Cola, would come to you and say, hey, tweet about our new product and we'll pay you this amount because you have so many followers. So it is very, very valuable.
Also, it's a slow process. Even our product, what we've got, this series, which is popular, we don't have like millions of followers like some people do. We don't have hundreds of thousands of followers even. We're like, I think our episodes average about 40,000 to like 50,000 views. I mean, it's not like amazing, but we have key people, which is a very successful show on TV. They reached out and wanted to have us as guest stars, kind of thing, So we have very key community members, and I think that's really important to the value of who. Like if you have writers and bloggers and people in that community that have their own huge network, if they're following you and they like you, you're piggybacking off of their network. So that's huge. And to go back to your whole question too on monetizing, brand equity was the first part. Then there's the sales, right? So that's where with Hell's Kitty, not only are we building this brand, but I want to repurpose content. So not only can you monetize online, which is very nominal. There's no one getting rich online right now. Like you can share ad sales and get a percentage, but it's super low. But we could repurpose it by putting these things together and basically packaging it as a feature film, pull it off our YouTube channel, and now distribute it worldwide, have it dubbed in Japanese or Chinese, or Mandarin, and now hit a whole new market that wouldn't be seeing it in English. And so you could repurpose content and make money on the same thing you made money somewhere else. So that's the other thing. And of course the merchandising and games and all those other things you can pull in, you can raise money too.
So, are any of you on Facebook?
Of course, that's absolutely necessary. As an indie filmmaker, if you're not on social media, you're just gonna get lost in the crowd and people will find it very difficult to find you.
So, are you on, I mean, you're personally on Facebook, but then
And
Hell's-
personally, yeah.
and Hell's Kitty?
Yeah, because I found, I use it for job seeking and job seekers look at to see where you're at
Right.
with your social media. So yeah, I use it as a brand for myself and for Hell's Kitty and
And do you
anything else I'm
promote,
doing.
do
Yeah.
you promote the Hell's Kitty
Yeah.
page?
That's also important.
See, I know a little bit about this.
We do promote the Hell's Kitty page. That's why it's also important to have a lot of friends on Facebook.
So tell us about how you promote things on Facebook.
Well, we have a page, Hell's Kitty page, and we use it to promote our YouTube videos, so you can watch our series online. We use it to promote our events. We often show our series at the Chinese Theater, so we use it for that as well, and we also use it to promote our nonprofits, because that's important as well. So yeah.
And do you use the built-in Facebook device where, if you pay $10, then they broadcast it out somehow?
That works for certain. It wouldn't work for us because we're a YouTube channel, but it does work if you're selling like popcorn or something. Like you're selling an item.
Okay,
Then I think that would work better for that.
okay.
It's not something that I would use for Hell's Kitty. Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Carrie? Have you used that?
I find that Facebook advertising, you as a brand, you have to make a choice. Like, do you want to be forced into someone's feed in a sponsored capacity, or do you want organic reach? And I think that organic reach is part of the slow growth that you were talking about. And it's person to person. If I tell you that I like a product and we're friends, then you're more likely to like the product, as opposed to a brand forcing the product into your feed and hoping that you like the product. Yeah, you're gonna get more eyes on it, and and for some larger brands, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, a very immediate return on investment. And one of the things that's going on in social media right now is a large debate about what is the return on investment, and how can brands and people who are marketing through social media prove that people are seeing the content, are interacting with the content, are liking the content if it's not, likes and impressions. So
Let's talk about Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Has anybody in the room used Kickstarter or Indiegogo to raise funds for a film okay? And then has anybody given money to a Kickstarter project? Okay. All right, so why don't are you familiar with this?
I am. I think that this is probably larger in your world than it is in mine, but I've definitely found amazing products that I love and have contributed to, that really innovative people are putting up on Kickstarter. My recent favorite find on Kickstarter is a water filtration system called Soma, And, you know, sometimes somebody just has a wonderful idea and doesn't want to go through the traditional channels in order to get that made. And Kickstarter, you know, creates a very democratic system where if you like a product and you think it should be in the marketplace, you get to make that choice as opposed to letting other people.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
So you've got your credit card out
Mhm.
and you're looking for some shoes,
Mhm.
right? And then all of a sudden you think, I'll go on Kickstarter and just spend that money there. Is that how it works?
No, not at all. I mean, maybe somebody posts a viral video of a product that's being marketed on Kickstarter and says, hey, I really like this. You should check it out. And then you do, and you also like it. Then that's when I whip out my credit card.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually that never happens. Actually, the people that will donate to your project will be probably 90% will be family and friends. Very rare do strangers come in and donate, you know.
Well, in my case, I'm really interested in small theaters, and there are so many towns, and I live in northern Michigan, and there were Kickstarter campaigns to refurbish a couple of small theaters up there, and they're adorable and wonderful and whatever. And so I donated to both of those, and so as a the idea of doing it as a community investment, I think is really remarkable because people give, if they can give the price of a movie ticket, like let's say they could give $8 or $10, I mean, people can afford to do that, and then the bigger idea is that you end up with something beautiful like this, and it just really serves the community, so.
So it's really just networks that you have available to you. Word of mouth, friends and family, and then personal recommendations. That you're
Right, and I've given to films as well, a couple of documentary films, and then to a filmmaker that influenced me when I first started out, his name is Hal Hartley, and so he was trying to get a new film off the ground, and you know, he's kind of out of the mainstream filmmaking world now, and he did this, and I thought, I just felt so happy that somebody had sent it to me, that I could give back to somebody that had influenced me so greatly, you know, early on. So, and it's really interesting when I think about how I'm going to donate to people, or you know, if you do that. I love this because it is kind of tailored to me, and I do appreciate it when people send it to me. Whether I do it or not, I think I can pass it along, I can help it, you know, get others. I can say, I donated to this, you can too. You know, so I just think that it's very powerful.
It is very powerful, and we have Kickstarter and we have Indiegogo, but there are also other crowdsourcing or crowdfunding sites specifically for certain things. Like if you have a women's issue, you go to this specific, there's a specific one for that. The Jewish community has their own Kickstarter type of crowdsourcing. So you have all these available to you.
Yeah.
But also, warning, if you do decide on doing an Indiegogo or Kickstarter, it's like a full-time job. You have to be promoting it constantly. So you have to know, you have to post something at least 36 times a day.
That's like an understatement. Like this whole thing, I think the desperation in the sense that angel investors and the film community have really got, you know, after the DVD market dropped out and there were some other changes in the marketplace, it used to be people would go to real estate people and the real estate market crashed, and then people would go to like these finance guys and they get money, and then a lot of issues start happening with that. So now it's like it's really challenging just to get money to make projects now, right? So in desperation, everyone's doing crowdsourcing. But what happened is everyone's doing crowdsourcing, and then when celebrities and people that have had traditional media and PR behind them and marketing started coming in and infiltrating the Kickstarter and Indiegogo communities, they're going to be a heck of a lot more successful at it because there were millions of dollars put into marketing them, brand equity. And they could use that now to basically, I mean, back in the day, they used to pay for test marketing. Now they've got the test marketing and they're getting paid for it. You know, it's like you're going to your fan base. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's cool. But it's really hard when you don't have that to kind of stand out, and you have to put a lot of time into it. And you know, having attended seminars on people that are hugely successful at Kickstarter, one of the big things they'll always say is that you have to have a support group that's your family and friends, and you have to make sure they're willing to put money in, because without that base, you're not going to make it. And also, unless you make half of whatever you're asking for within the first 2 or 3 days, there's a really high percentage you will not make your goal. And the way Kickstarter works is, for those that don't know, if you don't make your goal in raising money, you don't get any of that money that people donated. Now, Indiegogo is different. They give you a percentage of it, but they take a good chunk. And so that's why some people use Indiegogo, because they're at least getting some of it. But I personally, still to this day, would rather do angel investor dollars or go to corporate sponsors, and you know, they see it as an extension of their ad campaigns or marketing campaigns, because I personally just feel hard. I'd rather ask my friends and family to say, hey, give me a good review or check out my movie and bump up my views and give me some likes, because it's pretty easy. It just takes like 5 minutes of their time. But to ask them for money all the time, maybe I can get away with it once or twice, but it's like after a while I just feel awkward doing it. So as opposed to people that are in this business that want to make money, that want to be a part of the business, I still feel confident that you can find those right people. And if what you're doing is aligned with their philosophies, what they believe in, especially if it ties in with a product or service they sell, then I think that's the really, really good way to go. So.
I'd like to get the audience involved, and just that there are some ground rules. And the ground rules are, ask the question and then I'll repeat it, or someone here will repeat it so everybody can hear the question. Are you ready? Sure. Okay, here we go.
Well, just early on, Nick, you had said that you raised $500,000 for your production. Can you tell me, how you went about raising that money?
It's in these cases, there are 2 different projects.
Okay, so
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to repeat the question. Yeah, I should know this. I do interviews.
thank you.
So yes, the question was, how did I raise over $500,000 for projects of mine? First off, there were 2 different projects. One was a kids animation show called Boney Macaroni, and the money we raised actually opened a production company called Good Kids Entertainment here in Arizona. It was in Tempe, and we went to business doing a production on this show. We created a pilot. We had some pre-sales in France. That was raised through angel investors. That was an interesting thing because it was sort of an inside thing in a way. I hired an animation team to do a pilot for a Disney pitch that I had. And I paid these guys to do my Bible, which for those that don't know, the Bible is like a sort of a treatment with characters and some illustrations and things. You take it into a pitch meeting with development execs to try to get them to buy your project and finance it. So that's what I did. I hired this group, paid them, and went and did the pitch, and anyway, sold an option, but like it never wound up getting developed, which is the norm in the biz. And these guys remembered me, and then later, some actor friend of mine was like, hey, I saw this company, they're looking to bring in, they're looking for ideas from people, and they've got some finance. And so I called the company. I was like, "Hey, don't you remember me? I paid you guys to do my Bible," and contacted them, and I pitched them, and they loved it. And then we kind of, I pitched them like 3 ideas, and they took one of those ideas, and they wanted to run with it, and that's how I raised the money for that. The other one was more using internet. It's a documentary on masturbation, which we call it a film that touches us all. It's actually a smart film. It's got the former Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders in it, Larry Flint's in it, Janine Garofalo's in it, porn stars, politicians, psychiatrists, a priest, a rabbi, a Buddhist monk, an Islamic imam. I mean, we've run the gamut on the study of why our love-hate with sex. And this will hopefully be finished and being in festivals sometime next year. But I raised $150,000 in a month to do that film. And how I did that was I basically had the idea here at the Sedona Film Festival. This was about 6 or 7 years back. They had a development executive from Think Film here, which for those that know, that's a distribution company. I don't even know if they're still in existence, but I know that they were huge at the time when docs were in their apex. And this was when they released Zoo and Murderball. Some of you might remember Murderball. But their shtick was they do films that are a bit taboo and edgy, and that's their thing. And they were really successful at that model. And they came here looking for ideas from people. And it was one of those panel kind of things. And people were pitching them like octogenarian yoga and like Indian quilt making, and which is all cool, but it wasn't their thing. So the guy was getting bored and he's like, look, that's not what we do. And so to be honest, I had been talking about this idea with a friend as a joke, mockumentary idea. And I just kind of thought on my feet and was like, what about a documentary on masturbation? And the guy looked at me and was like, that we can do. and so that was it. And I went and he's like, you have it? I'm like, yeah. And I just went home that night from here and just wrote a treatment up real quick, started doing some research, put it all together really fast. I had them as a distribution interest, but they were talking about having other directors more seasoned with docs do it, so I got really scared. So what I did was I started shooting stuff. I paid it out of my pocket. I spent about maybe $5,000 at the time, or $6,000. I flew a mini crew that I met here to Little Rock, Arkansas. I pitched Dr. Joycelyn Elders, who was the woman, who's just a former Surgeon General who was fired by Bill Clinton for saying that we should talk about masturbation in our sex education programs. And of course, the president who wound up sleeping with his intern, or fires her because that was bad. But anyway, so we once we got her, that gave us legitimacy because the subject matter alone was taboo and kind of pushing but when we have the former Surgeon General in here, we know, look, we have something that's got value. And so then I put that on there. I interviewed a few other key people, and I basically threw it on YouTube. And with that trail that I put together, all within about a 3-week turnaround, I managed to raise angel investment dollars of $150,000. And the way they did it was we put a business plan together. I had a $220,000 budget, and they were giving me about $30,000 a month. And they just kept doing it. And I'm like, this is great. You know, I could do this. And meanwhile, I was getting still paid from the animation project. So for about 2 years, I was full-time just on 2 ideas, making a living. And they were doing it. But then they wound up, that crash happened in 2009, and then they wound up breaching the contract and not being able to give us the rest of the money. Now, today, I could probably make a doc on way, way less. But at the time, we were doing it based on the standards. We're paying people what they were getting, right? This is only 5-6 years ago. And so as we're doing this, the good news was we don't have to really necessarily pay them back right away because they're not looking for the money because they couldn't get us the rest of it. The bad news is it took me the last 3 years to finish it on my own time, and we're about 3 months away from finishing it. But that's the wrong way of answering your question your question of how we raised
I
money on
love
this
that.
project.
That's so cool. Now, are you native, from Arizona?
No, I was actually born in New Jersey, about 20 minutes out of Manhattan, a place called Weehawken, and grew up in New York, New Jersey, and a lot of my youth was in Connecticut as well. So.
But you've spent a lot of time here.
I went to Arizona State and actually bought a house down in Tempe, and I used to come to the film festival. My first time at the film festival was in its early days, I think probably around 8 or 9 years ago, and then, or maybe even maybe 12 years ago. It's been around for like 20 years, right? So. And then I think I came back 7 years ago, and then 6 years ago I was doing a lot of marketing and journalism for the festival, and that's where I met all those people. So.
Right.
Now I live in Los Angeles.
Right. Okay. All right.
You talked about Twitter and Facebook. Did you use Vine or Instagram or any other social medias, and how did you use those to promote your?
So the question is, what other social media do you use? Vine, Instagram?
Yeah, those are different outlets. You'd have to look at them separately. But yes, we do use Vine, Instagram, because the younger generation is using those instead of Facebook and Twitter. So if you want to catch the younger generation, you have to be using those outlets. And Vine, if for people that don't know, it's a short video. It's like a 6-second video clip. And we use it for Hell's Kitty, and we filmed the cat for 6 seconds doing something funny or something. And Instagram is just a picture. We take a funny picture of the cat, and so we use it that way. So yeah, those are very important to the younger generation.
Well, we also had a campaign we did, which is moderately successful, but we thought it was really funny. Where you never know what's going to make it, But we started taking Angel, our cat that's possessed, and we equated it to dictators around the world. So we'd have like Adolf Hitler and like Mussolini and we were doing this and we have its face superimposed on all these like old dictators, and we did like about 10 or 12 of them. So and what I would do is go to the pages of people actually have Facebook pages on these dictators and stuff, and people that research it and whatever, and I would hit their pages with this cat. And so they'd be like, I'd tag it, because you can tag photos with those pages, and so that was a way of kind of pushing that thing out there.
Okay, Carrie, why don't you tell us about tagging and that kind of thing?
Sure. So each social media platform works in a slightly different way, but they basically have the same tools. And the thing that you want to remember when you're on any of these social media platforms is that you want to keep your content social. So, like they were saying, they'll create something and they know it's going to appeal to a certain audience. So you have to bring that piece of content to that audience. But I think that, tagging people, sharing content on other people's pages, finding interesting content on somebody else's Facebook page and sharing it on yours is a social action. And, they're likely to return that behavior. And that's how you sort of create a bit of viral, activity around any content that you're sharing.
And do people in the room understand what tagging is, or would you like to know?
Oh.
Okay, so.
Okay. It's hard to sort of show you the mechanics of it without an example up here. But basically, let's take Instagram, for example, because they just recently introduced the tagging option. Say I have an Instagram account and I'm sharing my own photos, which I do, and then say someone else takes a photo of me or of some content that they think would be funny or useful to tag me in. There's a little icon on Instagram. It's just below, your name and your profile information on the far right-hand side. And, look for something that is, slightly human form. That's usually the kind of universal way to tag someone. It's like a head and shoulders. And you can click on that, and then you can just, type in someone's handle, which is what your handle is, whatever you call yourself on any of these given platforms. And then if you tag somebody, then on their page, it'll allow people to see what they've been tagged in.
So it's a shorthand way of communicating.
Yeah, it is.
Or
It's one of
or
three.
saying, check this out, or,
Yeah.
right.
It's one of three very useful shorthand ways to connect people in a social way. You have the hashtag, you have the @connection, and you have tagging.
So some of this seems really labor intensive.
It is very labor intensive.
Okay, and when you're being a filmmaker and you're trying to raise money and you're trying to brand yourself and you're trying to get investors and you're trying to do this and you're also doing social media just to keep your company, people aware of your company, and then you have to make the product, then you have to promote the film. I've done all this in the grassroots way, I've done it all old school, so I completely understand it because everything about Facebook, Twitter, all of these things is very grassroots.
I fully agree, and I began my career in politics doing grassroots direct voter contact strategy, and all of the same rules apply, except for the fact that now the public has a never-ending thirst for the content that you should be sharing or could be sharing to engage with them. So it's incredibly labor-intensive for that fact.
There are whole jobs out there for social media now. That's like the newest job amongst all companies. It's not a super high paid job. It's probably more of an entry level job yet. But most people will hire usually someone right out of college that's their social media expert, and that's a huge thing now. So the more successful you are with that thing, eventually that is an experience, a job. So you're learning a lot of the craft of that job, and it takes a lot of time. Yeah, and unfortunately, this is kind of another strange, sad, weird evolutionary thing that's happened to entertainment. Just like the division of gender, back in the day for survival, someone took care of the hunting and someone did the gathering the food, and that was for survival in many ways, right? Well, in entertainment, you have your creatives, And then you have your agents and managers and the people that handle the business side, right? Because if you're sitting home writing or creating and doing that, you don't have time to be going out and mingling to, set up that deal and deal with that, right? There are different skill sets. Not everyone has both, by all means. Most people don't actually. A lot of creatives are very introverted, or maybe they're good at what they do, but they don't want to deal with the business side of things. Well, what's happened with technology is it's kind of forced that division down and compressed it so that all creatives have to be all those things. You have to be your own manager, you have to be your own agent, you have to be your own publicist, you have to be your own producer, you have to be your own manager, you have to be everything, like the Costco of entertainment. And I'm sorry, but when you're doing that, you're not going to be as good at those things. If Ernest Hemingway had to be on tweeting and doing all his social media, he wouldn't have been sitting down writing between drinking binges, So it's just that's how you get good, by doing 10,000 hours of that thing. And so I kind of find that's a sad reality of this. I happen to be pretty good at it, but that's me. I have a lot of artist friends that are super talented that aren't. And so they're suffering in this kind of world. And I think there's a lot of future possibility and economic possibility for the new agents and managers and the gatekeepers. Once we figure that out and we find those niches online, those are the people that are gonna be making more money than anything else. And it's the other thing from a finance side of things. Like, there's the business of filmmaking, there's a business of book writing and all this, but the products that cater to that, the products that sell and help, help you make your movie, help you do, they make way more money than any of the 90% of the people that are the creatives.
Also, to add to that, it does take a lot of work, so I don't suggest doing it all by yourself. If you have to. But there's also, if you're passionate about your project, you will find other people that will be passionate about your project as well. So it's okay to ask for help. There's resources online where you can find people. We found a lot of our associate producers and so on volunteered to help us with a lot of the social media as well, because it is hard to do it all by yourself.
I also think you should really know your audience and who you're trying to reach. And you don't have to be on every social media platform in a half effort type of a way. It's better to be on one or two social media platforms, like really nailing it and engaging successfully with people. And I think that's really, really important. And that will limit the effort that you have to put out for the return that you're gonna get.
Okay, next question.
Sir?
So on that same topic, as the three of you are gaining momentum, how many hours per week are each of you investing in social media?
How many hours a week are you investing in social media?
Constantly. You can't really count the hours because all our media's on the phone too, so I'm just doing it while I'm on the phone. I'm walking down the street. I'm on the grocery store. So I have no idea, but it's like a 24/7, job, so.
Again, I'm a 24/7 job, but I don't brand and market myself. I work really hard to brand and market other people and projects that they're passionate about. And, you can do it at any level. You can devote 3 to 5 hours a week, or you can, be on there 24 hours a day. And if you are looking to find someone to manage your accounts for you, you should be very honest about, the amount of money you want to invest in it, and what type of return you're hoping to get out of it, and what brand objectives you want to push. Because for as much content that you'll be putting out, only a portion of that content will be selling or pushing the product that and the brand objectives that you're hoping to achieve. Most of it's just got to be really fun so that people want to come back and hang out.
Who's next?
Can you speak to, I know there's brands, there's companies out there that help make social media networking easier. I haven't actually used them, but I think there's social media, you get overwhelmed with all these different things, and I tell people about doing some of this marketing, and I say find the ones that you love. But I know, can you speak to these ones that kind of make it easier to have your YouTube, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, all in one movement?
Okay, so you're looking for platforms that make engaging with multiple platforms a little bit easier. Okay, you're talking about, third party, Hootsuite, you know, I have mixed opinions on a lot of these different, and they're vendors. I have mixed opinions on a lot of different vendors. I personally like vendors that provide some free services. For example, one of the things that you need to do when you exist on any social media platform, say you exist on 3 social media platforms, say you exist on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You have the largest following on Facebook. You need to also be using the audience that you have on Facebook to engage with content that you have on Twitter and Instagram. You should be working very hard to have unique content on each different platform, which goes back to the incredibly labor-intensive part of all of this. I've been using Woobox recently to create custom tabs for Facebook pages that drive people to the content on other pages. And you can use something that's really exciting and fun. You can use fan gates. So you can force people to like your pages before they're able to access them in a place that they already are. And the other thing about these third-party vendors is some of them will provide you with analytics. Hootsuite provides you with analytics. Sprout Social provides you with analytics. But I think that the thing you want to remember when you're looking for a third-party vendor is who has the best customer service. I know that when I use Sprout Social for clients, if I have a question about what's going on, or are we missing a day of analytics for so-and-so, I can pick up the phone and a person will answer. And I think that with a lot of these new companies that are emerging, wonderful customer service is a huge part of it. So, you don't want to be spending $1 million on a third-party vendor. You want to make sure that they provide you with the analytics that you need, and you want to make sure that they have great customer service. I think those are big things. You're welcome.
What's next?
I was just wondering, could you repeat who you said that you're using now? You said you've been using someone lately.
Well, I think that Woobox.
Woobox. Okay.
Yeah, I've been using them for Facebook.
What, is it WOO?
Yes, WOOBOX. And what you can do with Woobox is you can just use a couple of their free services. So for cross promotion between platforms, which I think is incredibly wonderful. And I think it also makes you look like more of a professional if you're marketing a brand, a product, a film, whatever. And then the other thing you can do is you can create really engaging contests, instant wins, the things that'll keep you can have as much wonderful content as you want. You can create a beautiful narrative on Facebook, but at some point you're going to get audience fatigue, and you need to be doing something that's engaging and fun to bring them back. And these, the Woobox is a wonderful third-party service to they can create the entire experience, and all you have to do is provide your own terms and conditions.
Yeah, I want to speak a little bit to the business and how that's used also. Like, you can get so creative with social media. One of the things I had mentioned earlier was our voting with the ballots. Like, if you're on Twitter, you can tweet a vote in, from your phone. So you can, some places do this, and that's another thing that can be built into it. Another unique campaign that I started doing with Smart Media, which is my production company, but we also do a lot of small marketing and commercials for businesses and big businesses. We're actually a guaranteed vendor for Semper Utility Company or the SoCal Gas, so we do a lot of their training materials and things too. So, and Universal Music Group was a client too. One of the things I started doing, especially for smaller businesses that don't want to take that risk, but they need to be competitive. So I started lowering my commercial rates. Like, I used to charge like $100,000 to $50,000 for like commercials, right? Now I would do a commercial for like $5,000, like really low rock bottom commercials at cost for me. Create the campaign and everything for this business. And then I would make my money on a percentage of product sales through the business, through the commercial, and also for building brand equity on a percentage of hits, so to the page or whatever. So I'm basically sharing the risk of my clients now. So to assuage any fears they have of working with me and taking this chance. So they have a less upfront cost risk, they can see what we can do, and then we share in the rewards when they're successful too. And brand equity is a value.
So, but what compelled you to do that?
But just to stay competitive. I mean, like I've seen this game change. from-
Because it has, okay, because
Yeah.
it's changed.
Yeah, because what's happened is, okay, I don't know, I don't want to bore people, but what's really happened through the backside of the business, I mean, essentially is fragmentation in the marketplace. So how films and TV and commercials and all that makes money is through advertising. Advertising is what pays for the commercials. Advertising is what pays for your television. Advertising is what pays for most everything. Now there's the subscription model, which has been super successful lately, which is sort of separate from that. But then there's this other model of advertising, which has been failing constantly as time goes on. And what's reason why it's been failing is what we call fragmentation of the marketplace. There, you cannot, in marketing, you want a lot of eyeballs or views or people to see that commercial or to see that film or whatever it is, right? And then you could sell them products. And why you pay a lot for a Super Bowl commercial is because they're telling you they've got, you know, all these millions of viewers, so you're going to get your product out in front of all these people. Well, what's gradually been happening is with competing media, so people just using their phones to watch things, people being on their computer, people somewhat watching TV, but maybe you're recording it so they can watch it at their leisure and going through the commercials real quick. What's happened is you're not getting those eyeballs. You're not getting those guaranteed views. So as that crunches down, as that becomes divvied out to smaller little segments, you can't justify the high cost of making that commercial. You can't justify the high cost of making that movie. And so the costs for production have been forced down to, like, I would say slave labor wages. I mean, not to something that I was comfortable being able to survive and do, you know. So I had to remodel and revamp my business models to survive in the new economy.
Wow. That's intense. Who's next? Over here?
What's the best way to get brand placement in a film as a sponsor or advertisement, but it's part of your actual film or short that you're producing?
The question was, how can we get brand?
Advertisers, sponsors.
Oh. Well, it depends on the film. It has to be relevant to the issue or whatever you're trying to push. First of all, so you have to do your research to see which companies would fit your film, and then you would contact them, basically. It's as simple as that, really. Yeah, reach out to them. And there's, of course,
The
several
marketing
ways to reach out to them.
department, Like a marketing department within that
Exactly,
company?
exactly, yeah. Make sure you have a plan for, because they're gonna wanna know, you know, what's your plan for the film, distribution, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you're prepared beforehand.
Do you know about this?
Oh, I just think also, I live in LA as well, and there are product placement agencies that do just that. I don't know if you're talking about for social media viral videos or if you're talking about for feature films or television. I'm not sure.
Features, television, shorts, whatever it might be, but it's appropriate product for that particular type of film or project. But it's like having a commercial inside it, but you don't
Right.
really feel like it's a commercial in a sense.
Right, when you can it's obvious that when they're holding the Coca-Cola or.
No, that's absolutely true. I think there's a documentary that's going to be screening here at Morgan Spurlock did one that's going to talk about that too, ad nausea. But as far as the my experience with it too is like my documentary on masturbation, for example. When the investors gave me the 150, but then I had a 220 budget and eventually was running low on funds, I started reaching out to sex toy companies because it was obviously related. And now if we're going to have someone with a sex toy in a scene or talking about sex toys, then I could use Tenga, I could use Flesh Lamp, I could use, you know, it depends on who's going to give me the money, you know. So I'm not jeopardizing my message necessarily or what I'm talking about, but it fits nicely with the project.
So how do you do that in a documentary though?
What do you mean?
I mean, so are you tying it in as in the when the film is done or?
No. While you're making it, because you're gonna splice it in. For example, if I have a placeholder scene where some porn star is using a product, or someone's talking about how sex toys are bulletproof during a bad economy, like wine. You know, when the economy crashes, wine sales are still solid and if not higher, and sex toys are solid and if not higher. And I think it's the stress relief factor. But yeah. So if I'm talking to somebody about that, I could go to a friend of mine who started sextoy.com, who made his first million at the age of 30, and say, hey, I'm going to use your sex toys, and I'm going to have you talk in my film and talk about that thing. So there's many ways in which you can give them a commercial, so to speak, but they become a part of your project. You're not jeopardizing the project, and you're making money on that through them, and then they can follow the festival circuit with you, pay for all the parties and all that.
Yeah, also, it's good to have an example, or if you could have a trailer or something that shows your work, your previous work, that's very important. Or even like a booklet of your film with your storyboards and things like that. That's important. Anything you can show them is helpful.
Okay, who's next? In the middle?
You talked about angel investors. Are those just people that believe in whatever your cause is, that will just flat out give you money?
They're angels coming from above. Yeah, that's what they are. Angel investors are people that buy into what you're doing. They're really investors, but where the term angel comes from, to be honest, I don't know. I would say it's probably because they're like a godsend. but I think they're people that just buy into the project, believe in it. I'm not sure, does anyone else know where the term angel investors comes from versus just investors?
It's in it. I mean, even if you're fundraising for a hospital, there's
Angel investors, right?
Yeah, it's like
I think it's a psychological marketing tool to make them feel better about themselves for doing it, because they're throwing all that money out. but
there is an emerging group of investors who are looking to invest in projects that are smaller, that aren't going to necessarily give them a return on their investment in a way something larger, more corporate, more structured might be.
It is becoming more, now, today, difficult to find angel investors. I wouldn't go that route if I didn't have to. I mean, I would do that maybe if I absolutely needed to, just because it's very, very difficult, unless you're in and you know those people. So, yeah.
Sir.
So if you want to make a movie that's going to be, let's say, a higher end movie, something, for example, on the order of the Hunger Games. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be talking about the same type of backing as you're getting for, a documentary on masturbation. You're talking about, it cost $88 million.
Yeah, but that's because it's going through the Hollywood system. But yeah, it doesn't have to be made on that, to be honest, nowadays. But it definitely has to be made more, probably more than what I have on my documentary. Yes.
So you could make a movie like that, perhaps, for a lot less money than was spent on it.
Absolutely, it's amazing. Well, I hope you check out Hell's Kitty, because we have animation in there, and we have all kinds of good effects. And I can tell you, when we're done with the feature film, it will have cost me about $10,000.
Wow. Okay, so I got a book series that I feel.
Now we get the pitches.
That's okay. That's okay.
What I want to know is, I mean, I know what I want to happen with this. I think it could be could have a type of appeal that perhaps Hunger Games and Twilight series had. And that maybe is totally unrealistic, because no author is objective about their own work, obviously. But anyway, some movies have drawn in tens of millions of dollars of financing. Now, how exactly do they go about doing that?
There's several ways you can do it, and you can bring that in. It's not easy, and I haven't done that. So I can't really professionally speak to that, and having been successful at drawing that much money. These days, there are all groups that will give that money when you attach certain people. So I can say, like, I had a script that I wrote. It was a soccer kind of magical realist piece that a friend of mine at ESPN wanted to do. He hired me to write it. And at some point we had John Travolta attached to it. So it was like a pretty big deal. And when the funny thing is, we started, he had Yari is like a big investor in the indie community. Well, I don't know if he's still doing things, but anyway, he invested seed money, which is the first in money for a production, which is the most risky money, right? When you have a budget. And once he did that, it's a little easier once you have that to get other money, because there are groups out there that will jump in at certain portions when you raise money. So if you raise a certain amount, they'll put in a certain amount. And then there's finishing guys, which I spoke to one that was here. He did a Q&A, the guy that was involved with the Mother Teresa movie. And he's kind of like the last in, first out guy. So these guys finish movies. So movies, when they get a certain amount of finance, they'll come in and bring the last amount of money, but they get out first in profits. So they're the least risky, right? And they get producer credits and all that stuff. So there's a chain of like processes of like, if this, then this kind of stuff that happens. And executive producers are people that will often do that. Financiers, film finance companies will do that. If you pitch them your idea and they like it, great. But it's super challenging now, because unless it's based on a book or a Marvel thing or something, you have a history of success, it's really hard to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, if your book has a following online, that would greatly help you in finding investors, or even production companies that will help you finance that or find investors for you as well. Big following, I'm talking.
I was gonna say, you know, going through the Hollywood system is a very political and a very structured process, and it happens with a small network of people. And even, I don't know if you're familiar with the television show Veronica Mars, for example. It was a very, very popular television show, and it had to go through crowdsourced fundraising in order to become the feature film that's about to be released. So it took a movement of people and a crowdsourced fundraising effort. So
Yeah, the Hollywood system is not taking a risk.
they're not
on-
taking it.
So let's talk, this is a perfect point to segue into the Amazon, what is it? I can't remember.
Hulu, iTunes, Amazon.
Well, yeah, but what's the Amazon book thing?
Oh, CreateSpace?
CreateSpace, yeah, let's talk about that, because this is, what I understand about that is that your best bet is that if you have a piece of work that you're going to put on there, it's always better to have two pieces, because once somebody loves what they've just read, they're gonna immediately go and say, just like we all do with authors, well, I wonder if this guy has anything else. And, I mean, I know a little bit about this. I think it's a phenomenal program that hardly anybody knows about. So, tell us. Well, there's two different parts, right? One is books and one is.
Well, there's movies too that you can sell
Okay.
and stream on Amazon too, and they give you a percentage. The thing with Amazon is Amazon's doing an amazing job right now, dominating almost everything. They have kind of two things going on. They have the let the creators do it, and we don't care who we publish and who anyone can do it. Anyone can publish a book, anyone can put a movie up there. But unless those people have their social media skills and they have their network behind them and their team behind them and a fan following, you're just gonna have a book up there that's maybe fun for you, but doesn't mean anything anymore. It's not great. It's not like, oh, someone went through a select vetting process and chose to publish you. That's not the case at all. So anyone could put stuff up there. So that means it's less valuable, really. And so that's that process. But then there's they have Amazon Singles, for example, which is between 5,000 and 20,000 words. And this is where they will only publish, I think, around 350 books a year, and they're really more selective. And I could be wrong on that. That was the last figure I remember. But I actually submitted 2 book proposals to them to that recently, and haven't heard back yet. But they have like a 5-week kind of process. And if you get selected, now they've limited the amount of people they promote, so it's created more value. So there's more chance that that you're gonna, if they pick you, just like the old school method, that you have more of a chance of getting new recognition without having to rely on your own people, new people, because they're promoting you. And the same thing goes for movies. I don't know if they have anything where any movie can go on there, to be honest. Maybe you can talk to that.
They don't have where movies can go out there. I mean, they have, not really, but they have like series, web series. if you have a web series, what happens is you submit it to Amazon, and then they show it to the public, and the public decides what they want to see. So you basically have to shoot your own pilot, but after that they will, if they choose you, if the public chooses you, you get to produce more of it.
I was just gonna say that I think 50 Shades of Grey started in that, I think as an Amazon single. I think they maybe used to allow for more, but basically you're bringing your product into the marketplace and you're letting people decide whether or not they are responding to it, and then that's when other people get interested in your product. Book, film,
Yeah,
music. No.
Yeah, music too.
Yeah.
Music Baby now came out with Book Baby as well. So there's another resource for you writers.
Also,
I have a friend that submitted something to me. I wasn't trying to be rude and checking my phone while this is going on. I'm actually checking some stats here. That they sent me some information about the finance, how it works. I know some people making money with indie films online, and iTunes splits 50-50 with the distributor. The customer can own the film for $10 or rent it for $5. So she writes, we can expect to make another $250,000 or $500,000 on iTunes. So like, there's money being made in these new models. Amazon, it's a 50-50 split with content providers. If the film's rented for $4 per customer yields, it gives them $2, basically. So 100,000 orders to us, 200,000 is typical for a new indie film. You know, I mean, that's pretty good money, you know? I mean, these days yeah, you're gonna have to make your movie for pretty cheap, but you can make money. Netflix offers a flat fee. They pay $30,000 quarterly, $120,000 annually for, they paid that for Strictly Sexual. Hulu splits advertising revenue. They pay $30,000 quarterly, $120,000 annually for Strictly Sexual. I don't know if I should have shared that, but anyway, that's you know, there's numbers there for you.
Don't let it go outside this room.
I would just like to add that on Amazon, they also have screenwriter, like contests where you can submit your screenplay there. And if it's selected, where people can look at it and say, oh, I want to produce this too.
Yeah, it's the
Another
same
outlet.
thing, and it's not only Amazon that does that. There's a lot of other sites that do that as well. But yeah, that's just another.
So if someone leaves here and they would like to find out about this, how would you recommend that they search for it? Like they go on Google and they search for screenwriter,
Yeah, absolutely.
make my movie?
How do I make a movie? Google is amazing what you can find there.
What specifically, if you were going online, what would you, what would you look up? What would
For
you give?
screenwriting or
Yeah.
just specific research?
Like you have a screenplay, you
Yeah.
have a book, and you want to get engaged in how to get connected to some of these programs.
You know, you would Google how to get connected with the
Okay.
screenwriter.
Okay.
Like seriously, it's that easy.
It-
It's
it-
that
it-
seriously.
With the Amazon thing, the Amazon book thing, nobody knows that that's going on. I mean, you'd really have to,
Do your research.
yeah, what is it
Yeah.
called? I can't even remember.
Create space.
Yeah, create space. Now, who would know that you would be looking for something called create space? I mean, that
You
sounds
would-
like you're remodeling your bathroom.
You would just put like, how do I publish my own book?
In a way, it's
Yeah.
great to be searching for something like Create Space in a time where not everybody knows how to reach it and find it, because you're gonna be competing with a smaller network of people.
That's changing, like, after today, like, there'll be probably 10 more, 20, I mean, literally, that is changing so rapidly, yeah.
But I also, I'm a really huge fan of what Joseph Gordon-Levitt's doing with Hit Record, which now has become a television show called Hit Record on TV. And I think what a lot of creative people are trying to do is network with other creative people, and that is a space that is dedicated to developing new projects and figuring out how to connect artists with each other, how to inspire each other, and how to create amazing new content.
Yeah, I want to speak to that too, because I think that's a really good kind of place to go near the closing of this thing, is if you're an artist and a creative person, I think you have to create. Like, get depressed when you don't, right? So one of the things I've noticed is if you're in the business to make money, that's one thing. If you're in the business just because you want expression, you want to connect with people that share similar ideas and things, that's another thing altogether. For me, it's both, but it's really the latter that's truly inspiring to me. Like I've made movies and been in this business when I was making money full-time, when I was making money part-time from it, and even when I'm not making any money at all, I'm still doing it. And it's because I'm that passionate about it. And how we're doing this, like, let's go back to Hell's Kitty. I haven't made a dime on Hell's Kitty, and anything I make would go to our nonprofit partners right now, but it didn't have to be set up that way. And the reason why is because I've gotten commercial jobs out of this thing. I got my Universal account because they were like, I didn't even put it on my resume or anything, and they were like, so you're the guy who does that Hell's Kitty thing, right? And so that's trickle down. That's just, when you're out there, people find you and they connect with you. And I've had creators even here say, hey, I kind of want to do this spin-off thing. Maybe you can help me do it and I can, finance this. So you get jobs out of it. Work begets work. Doing creates all kinds of things. So I think, taking the money thing aside, we're having a blast. I've made friends in Germany. We have fans in like Thailand and we put out ads on, this is also good for people to know, Mandy's.com. And Craigslist can be used to find crew members and build your team. And I can tell you right now, Hell's Kitty is done entirely volunteer. Like Lee Merriweather was volunteered. We've had DPs that are like low-end DPs, like newer people. And then as we grew our brand, it was a snowball effect. We've had Robert Altman's son, Robert Reed Altman, who shoots on Bones. He did one of our episodes. So like, it's just people want to be a part of something cool. And I think that's what's super exciting, because now when you have a project that you've got cool people and even seasoned people now coming to the table to say, I want to be a part of that, and you're not offering them a dime, you've got something. And that's just something cool about that. And now you can work online through FTPing and cloud stuff where you can send files back and forth. Our sound designer in Hell's Kitty lives in Berlin. I've never met him, but I see him like almost every other day. I mean, he's seen me in my underwear. Like we Skype and I feel like I know him intimately. And the funny thing is when we searched him, Denise put out an ad on Craigslist, and we said pro bono on pay. And he wrote us, and he was the best of all of them. Like we had a bunch of them, but he was the best. His work was just phenomenal. And he said, I've been a fan of your show. And I thought that was so cool. We have fans in Germany, And so he's passionate about it. He got it. So not only was he also the best, but he has just done, the show would be nothing without him, and he has contributed significantly. And now we have plans, if we could hit the Berlin Film Festival, as we go out there, we want to do like a little tour of the music, because he does a lot of the music with me, and we're going to do our own thing. And he's got his own network that's out there that knows about us and supports us out there, and it's really amazing.
Wow. Well, we should wrap up. Is there one burning last question here?
Yeah. Is there a resource online, a forum that's continually updated with new ideas, new locations, and how-tos, just where people are feeding information and keeping out frequently? On social media.
I think that's the worst. Like, no.
Not the one of 10 million horrible sites. It's just...
I use LinkedIn a lot to connect with professionals and to find out what's going on. If you can develop a list of people on LinkedIn who are influencers, who you trust, and who are giving information that you find valuable, I think that's the best you're gonna do. I mean, I am just constantly trying to absorb information about what's going on with each social platform and who is, who's the network of people that I could reach through each social platform. But the truth is, everyone's testing. It's a new science. It's crazy. Yeah. And as corporations and as brands start to integrate social media into their mainstream marketing, things are going to change. Things change every day.
Yeah, it's also important to attend panels like this. There's Digital Hollywood, there's Social Media Week in LA. That keeps you up to date as to what's going on. But other than that,
other than that, you could figure out something that's better than anyone thought of.
Exactly.
I was just going to say, build that, and then we'll be sitting here listening to him in a couple of years, and he can finance all our films.
No, seriously. Yeah. I agree.
It's what's exciting about it.
It's my mic even on? Oh, there it is. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Carrie. It's just, it's a huge new world, and we're all kind of in the same boat together, and we need to help each other along. And, of course, I started this out asking, what's a hashtag and what's a handle and whatever, and look at everything that we got into. So thanks for coming, and I just wanted to let you know that tomorrow's event is ticketed, and so it's not, you just can't show up, you have to have tickets for it, is what they've told me, so.
How much are the tickets?
I really don't know, but they're, I guess,
No, it's not free tomorrow.
okay, do you know anything?
I don't believe they're free, but check with the box office, they'll have
Okay.
those answers.
I just want you to know, I posted a picture and posted all this on Facebook.
Well, and I was gonna say, thank you, and if you use @Sedona Film Fest, the @ sign, or you can hashtag Sedona Film. And if you do that, then we can all go and all meet each other in one of those searches or something. Say it again, @ sign.
No, what did you, oh, I thought you said what you
No, I said @.
Oh, I was going.
Hey, I'm from Northern Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Since this was supposed to be the forum on Saturday,
Yeah.
do you know what's replacing Saturday?
Saturday is yes,
Producers,
it's the producers, right?
whatever that means.
Okay, on Friday, it's Academy Award winners. On Saturday, it's producers. How to produce your, how to produce a film, et cetera, so. Yeah. So it's, Thomas Morgan. It's Terry George, who made Hotel Rwanda, will be here. Orla George she was here last year, and she made a short film and won the Academy Award. And Barbara Koppel, who is, a revered documentary filmmaker for, ages now, will also be on that panel. Yeah, so she's a documentary filmmaker. Thank you, everyone. All right.
Yeah, I got it. I don't have any further.
Yeah, I know, me too. I'm like a zombie out here. That's all I feel. Yeah.